Fit for Life Radio, episode number 114. Staying bundled up here in southeastern Virginia.
It's cold, man.
Let's do this. I mean, this is it. This is why I think I don't get excited for my birthday.
Because there's just snow and...
Because my birthday is January 9th.
And sadness.
And it's always like the coldest part of the year here. And it doesn't even it gets right to...
Freezing.
Freezing, which...
That's cold enough, man.
It's cold enough.
It was like 26 this morning.
I know.
And I almost died getting in my car because there's still ice everywhere. I'm unprepared. I'm unfit for this. Unfit for snow life.
And then, with cold snow life, in January also comes the time of year where a lot of people are gung-ho.
Making changes
with the fitness stuff. And here we are about 3 weeks in. A little over. And most people, I think, especially November, December, right, we end up putting a lot of this stuff off because we say, you know what, January's coming up.
I'm going to do it then.
The holidays will be over, and I'm going to do it then.
I'm going to tighten up.
I'm going to be firing on all cylinders, So we go into that pause. I'm going to put things on pause over the holidays because this time is coming up where I can unpause.
And then I'm going to restart.
Yep, and restart when everything's perfect, right? But then what happens? January comes, 2 weeks into January, and big work project comes, or maybe you get sick, and what happened to the perfect clean slate, And the reality is it never comes.
Nah.
And even if it does, it's going to be for such a short amount of time. It's not how our real life is going to be. So taking some approach that only fits into this perfect 1 week of the year
this
time
perfect
frame
calm week
is not going to be helpful anyways, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of us fall into the trap of thinking when I'm less stressed or when I'm less overwhelmed, I'll do this. And then when you find that 1 week of reprieve, you decide to start, and then you forget that the rest of your life does not look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that speaks to maybe needing to make larger changes in your life, whatever that may be, maybe a different job or just, not doing as much as you do, maybe taking more off your plate. But we end up hitting that pause because we're not set up for that.
And let's be real, most people they don't need to think about quitting their job first.
No, God, no.
Because most people, if we go back to, because that gives people another all or nothing, right?
That's true,
I can't quit my job. That's the problem. So I'm not going to do anything, right? The reality is when you go back, we had an episode a few weeks ago on just going through your phone and seeing how much time you spend on there. You can find the minutes you need typically, unless, and don't get me wrong, and again, you may not be able to quit, so you have to find, but it is an uphill challenge, especially if you work, as a nurse and that you have rotating night shifts and it's hard to find that time. Yeah, there is
some times but you can still prioritize and find some time
and
on this dial. What
we're getting at is, and reinforcing something we've talked about tons of times before is don't take the light switch approach, the on off. There's only two speeds, 1 and 10.
Yep.
The reality is you want it to be a dial, right? There's different stages and you can kind of go back and forth based on where you're at. Maybe, you do get a week stretch, a 2 week stretch where you can turn up the dial, but then also be okay with I have to turn the dial down and establishing those lower level stages and habits and being okay with them, because
those are probably the most important to be able to fall back on.
And we're going to go through some examples kind of through exercise, movement, nutrition, just to kind of reinforce and tell you it's okay to do some of these basic things. For one, we'll start with exercise, right? A lot of people, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, right? So I'm going to go 6 days a week. And I think back to P90X, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their program is 7 days a week. It's an hour and a half workouts. And it is at home. It is, you don't need much equipment, right? But still,
it's a lot.
That's a big chunk. And the reality is you don't have to work out 7 days a week. Now maybe if you're a pro athlete, or honestly, even then, it's not going to be that helpful.
Nah.
So, because you have to recover, right? And the reality is, if you walk 30 minutes a day and did 2 days of working out 30 minutes each, you're going to make, for most people, all the progress you need. That's going to be enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong, then you get working out and you like it and maybe it helps you relieve stress and you do want to do it more frequently. There's plenty of reasons to do it more frequently, but, don't make your baseline so high, so all or nothing. Dial it down. So a good place to start could just be with the walk, a 10-minute walk, right? Because the great thing, you're thinking, well, 10-minute walk, ultimately, what is that going to do?
Yeah, what's the point?
It is little and minor in the actual activity, but think of all the steps you have to go through and like how it helps you establish and prioritize these things, because you are going to have to take time out of your day. You're going to have a little discomfort, right? Typically, you might have to go outside.
Mm-hmm. Do something physical.
You are putting aside other things to do this, even if it's for 10 minutes. So now what you're doing is you're practicing prioritizing these things with just a 10-minute walk a day. And then guess what happens once you get going? Well, I'm out here. Actually,
am I going to do just 10
maybe
minutes?
I'm enjoying this, and you end up going longer. It ends up being a 30-minute walk, right? But say you initially said, well, I'm going to do an hour. But then it's easy to be like, man, an hour, and then I got to maybe shower, do this, and I'm just not – so you don't do it, right? Where if you just say 10 minutes, okay, I got that, and you're more likely to do it. So that's a good, lower level.
It's a good base to have. And then on times where maybe you need to fall back on something, you can still at least go for your walk every day. And then you're still getting your daily movement, the habit's still alive of you doing movement and setting aside time. And, when maybe you do have time, it's so much easier to transition into something that may be a little bit more than that.
Yeah. And here's the thing. There's no excuse. You don't need special equipment. You can do it anywhere. It really comes down to where your priorities lie, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not willing to do that and establish that habit, you're not going to make it doing the all or nothing approach.
The 6 days a week of intensity.
Or at least not on any long-term sustainable amount. And then, from there, add in 2 days a week at the gym, doing some resistance training. And then maybe eventually you bump that up to 4, right? So 2 to 4 days in your walk. And then maybe you add in an additional 1 or 2 conditioning days. And there's times where you're able to, you're going 5 days a week, 3 strength days, conditioning at the gym, getting your walks in. And then, something happens. Okay, cool, no problem. I'll dial back down to just 2 days. And realize that you're going to bounce between those things. But the key is you're not going 9-10 months doing nothing.
Yeah. Because that's what's not effective. Versus maybe turning your dial down a little bit. And I think we get caught up thinking this isn't going to do anything. Why am I even going to do it? Right? If you're used to training 6 days and you go down to 3 or 2, it can be easy to feel like you're wasting your time because, this isn't as intense as I normally do it. But really all you're after is just kind of maintaining where you're at in a period like that. And that's cool. Unless you have a sport that you're training for, that is a perfectly cool place for all of us to live from time to time, because you're not always going to progress. You're not always going to be pushing it day in and day out. And so being able to just maintain for 9 months, even I don't see how that's even a bad thing.
And here's the thing, especially if your baseline is normally doing nothing for 10 months of the year and going all out for 2, if all you did was a daily 10-minute walk, that is massive over time. That is 3,650 minutes in the year. That is almost 61 hours of walking. So step back, if you went 61 hours walking last year versus an extra 61 hours of sitting,
that's a big difference maker.
There's going to be a massive difference on so many factors, not just, we're not even talking about burning calories from walking. We're talking about the fact that you're moving, the fact that you're standing, the fact that you're getting outside, getting, sunlight. The benefits are numerous, right? And on your physical and mental health. So, make that your baseline and try not to do nothing, right? And realize that for most of us, we don't even need to do it all,
Yeah.
I know for me, It's 95% of the time I'm training 3 days a week at the gym, about 45 minutes, and getting a walk in every day. And yeah, sometimes it is only 10 minutes. Other time, and honestly, yeah, this when it's cold, that's all it.
Yeah.
It would be the dog walk, right? And then okay, that's good. And then when it gets nicer, the walks get longer, right?
That's where I land.
But ultimately, I don't beat myself up over, now I'm only getting 5,000 steps in the dead of winter a day versus 10,000 or more other days. I'm still getting 5,000, right? So that is something to pat your back on. And then another one, maybe even more common, because exercise people do enjoy. There is this like instant gratification with it.
Yeah, there is.
It's almost like a little bit easier compared to nutrition.
Nutrition, man, because nutrition's hard.
And then nutrition, we're bombarded, right, with these plans, these diets, these books, and it's
Just so much information, man.
Mm-hmm, and people feel very strongly about it. And nutrition is all day, all night, right? It's around the clock. It's something,
Yeah, it's not 10 minutes a day.
yeah, it's something we have to work on or battle against at all times. And yeah, so most people, January hits, I'm gonna do Whole30. So you cut out. Here's a list of all the things to cut out, and even if you're not going to keep X thing out of your life forever, all you're really doing then is making you have a worse relationship with it because you're labeling this something as bad.
Yep.
Right? When the reality is we just need baby steps. Right? So instead of I'm going to overhaul, so say you're someone who drinks coffee for breakfast and grabs packaged Little Debbie, right?
Muffin.
And then, for lunch you go out, grab something out to eat. And then maybe between lunch and dinner you're just snacking on what's at work or what's at your house. And then dinner comes and it's like, let's end up getting takeout or ordering pizza, something maybe already packaged. And so you probably don't get groceries. You don't have a grocery list. Or if you do, it's super sporadically.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
Now all your meals are basically taking no food prep, not much time. They're packaged in design, so they're gonna be designed to taste delicious, heightened. You're working against a lot, right? So now if you're like, I'm going to do this diet where
I'm going to eat clean.
Yep, where I cut out all these foods. So now technically everything you do eat, you need to be cooking. And to be cooking, you need to be grocery shopping. So that's the thing, like doing some all or nothing diet isn't just like, I'm just changing my diet.
You have to make a lot of changes in your life to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's all that stuff. Starting with, now you got to make a list. Now you got to grocery shop.
You have to plan.
Yeah, and then you got to stick to that list. Then you got to plan meals. Then you got to cook those meals. Then you have to enjoy those meals.
And you got to stick to those meals.
Yeah, and they're not going to taste as good as the other stuff.
Yeah.
Initially.
So you're turning the dial all the way up almost, in that, is a weird expectation to have.
Yeah. And then when you can't do it, we typically end up blaming ourselves. I'm a
Yeah.
failure. It's my fault.
I can't do this.
When really it was doomed, the plan was doomed. And we are kind of a outcome of our environments, right? So step back, slow down, instead of trying to eat all local, organic, every meal's planned, perfectly balanced, and instead replace one meal.
That's it.
So in that hypothetical, you normally have a coffee and a what are the little Debbie's with the brown like cupcakes with the white swirls?
Brown cup. Oh man, I don't remember what those are called.
Those things.
I know what you're talking about.
What-
It's like the fake looking swirl on top that's like
Yeah.
real perfect.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So what if that's your breakfast, right? Cool. Or we'll even say you go to Starbucks and get your coffee and then grab 2 cake pops. Bro, I can't get past grown-ups eating
I
cake
know,
pops.
I can't either.
You picture a grown man
Just house in a cake pop.
whacking back a cake pop for breakfast, or at any time really. Well, anyways, so you know what? Instead of the cake pops or the Little Debbie, have a couple boiled eggs and a piece of fruit. And you know what? If you have pizza for lunch and
Chinese food for dinner.
Chinese food, that's fine. Make that one change.
You're still going to be better off making the one change.
And you know what? Eventually, maybe that first meal leads to feeling more satiated and having better energy throughout the day. And now you're motivated. And then it's eventually 2 weeks in, and it's just a habit. You don't think about it. You don't have to think about it. Maybe now you work on that lunch, right? Or maybe now just, hey, I'm going to start making a grocery list, buying more food to have at home. Maybe you realize, you know what? Like, I'm paying $4 for 2 boiled eggs at Starbucks. Now let me make that one meal a little better. And then I'm going to make them at home, right? And now you're saving money.
And now you're setting a good habit, much like just walking every day of, I'm going to make something at home. And then that, because cooking can be daunting for some people, and that makes it a lot easier for you to cook more meals than just your hard-boiled eggs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now you're at the grocery store buying eggs. Well, kind of like the walk, right? Well, now you started walking. Maybe let me keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I'm at the grocery store. Let me buy my lunch ingredients, right? Now let me experiment with some lunch meals. And guess what? You may find some recipes that you don't enjoy, or they're too complicated and they didn't taste good. That's fine.
That's part of it, man. There's plenty of stuff I've made that I didn't like.
Keep trying, right? Baby steps. A dial, not all or nothing, not a light switch, right? And then that's how you find yourself buying a plot of land to grow your
fertile
own
soil.
Yeah. 4 years later, that's when you realize you're a hippie and you moved.
And organic farming is your passion.
Yeah. But no one really goes from Funyuns to organic farming.
Nah, that's like a 1 in a million shot. But you can still end up prepping and planning most of your meals eventually.
Yeah.
And then you might hit a time in your life where like maybe you do prep and plan most of your meals, but like you're working a full-time job, you're going back to school. So like it's not completely plausible to do maybe as much as you were before, but you're still able to retain some of those habits.
Yeah. And I've shared this before, and I go back to it, and it still is a good reminder for myself, because sometimes you forget like how I eat now. And yeah, I am, I do prepare most of my meals and have everything structured and kind of know how much I'm eating and my portions, but it didn't start like that.
No.
I think it's on my blog, but it's like how to get ripped eating chicken nuggets.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
And of course, it's like the most popular blog post, because I think people are like,
You're like, yeah, let's eat some chicken
but then
nuggets,
the reality
bro.
is the lesson it's trying to teach is, so I started with, I was a picky eater, and then, you read fitness stuff, and they're like, you got to eat chicken. Well, I didn't really just eat, I was like 20 at the time, right? Just regular plain chicken. It seemed disgusting. So I started these breaded Tyson thingies, right? Frozen. Throw them in they didn't have air fryers at the time. It was like the old little mini oven.
Well,
Cool.
I got one of those.
I'm eating more chicken, right? Now it was breaded and essentially I kind of like fried chicken patties, but it was before that I was just eating Pringles, right? Or you just grab whatever was convenient. So I went from a mindless snacking on junk to, okay, now I'm thinking about what I'm eating. I'm getting more protein in now. Then eventually kind of see some progress, but hey, let me do it. And yeah, then the chicken maybe turns into, I found when I marinate the little chicken tenderloins, right? I enjoy it. So like I would marinate those in Italian dressing and then grill those up, right? So now you're slowly making these steps, right? And that's how it works, Very few of us just
are there automatically.
0 to 60 real quick.
Yeah, that you will. I mean, I'm sure you will see people claim to do that, or maybe can do that, but it's the minority. So when you see someone on the gram saying they changed their life overnight,
or what happens is, and again, I'm guilty of this. You forget because then you start doing the things you do now for so long that they're so ingrained. You forget being a beginner.
Yeah, how long it took to get to the place where you have all those habits,
And that took years, right? So sometimes, we could be coaching people and be like, man, why can't they? It's so easy to make these changes. But the reality is,
it took you, 15, 16 years? That was 16 years ago probably, right? 15?
Yeah, but now, obviously, like, I'll say, really, it probably took, 2 years.
For you to make that,
and then,
change.
But then you feel great. You reach your maybe body composition goals. You have more energy. You sleep better. And then it's just like, this is my lifestyle.
Yeah, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's something we have to remind ourselves, too, is that, we didn't get there overnight.
I remember, Ben's talked about it before, Mr. King of plain beef and rice, but he started with, eating hamburgers, with the buns and the sauces and all that, and then slowly he was like, well, let me not use as much mayo, right, and then just ketchup, and then eventually I'm going to try, to where he's just got down to the burgers, and then also noticed he was getting leaner and felt better, and, went from there. So it's normally a process.
Absolutely.
And again, so with your nutrition, have that dial, right, and work through things and realize that, and in setbacks and times where you have to step back to lower on the dial, they're not wrong or bad.
No,
they're part of the process.
Yeah, it's part of life, man.
Because the reality is, something will always come up.
Always.
So you're planned, perfect. It's just not going to be that way.
And then it's I think a bad expectation to set for yourself that you're only able to do these things when every condition is perfect, and not even giving yourself credit that you can do things when life is being life and life is stressful and busy, and we can make it work within that. But we tell ourselves almost with this on-off switch that I can only do this when X conditions are met, and that's it. And we know those conditions aren't realistic for really any of us, unless you're living in a convent somewhere, or.
I'll share one example. Recently, right? I own a gym, right? I've been doing it for years, and I was training 4 days a week, and with the business, it's just like, we have certain goals and we're pushing, and there's lots, of changes going on and things to work on. And it was just that one extra workout was because then things that I wanted to get done, especially in the morning time, it's just, one extra day where it was just ended up being frustrating and clashing, right? So instead of training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I just dropped back down. And I had only been doing that, like I say, I always feel like I'm going to do a little more, right? But then I always end up dropping back down to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then that freed up my Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Mm-hmm. Then the work stuff fell in line better and the things I wanted to get done. And it's just better, right? Again, for my lifestyle, for everything I want to get done. And, and I'm fine with that, right? So it's finding that balance.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. Depending on, if you're a business owner, you have a little bit more to worry about than if you just go to a job. Mm-hmm. So that's also something to consider. If you have kids, that's another thing to consider. So just realize that what's right for Gary might be different for me or even anybody else that comes to our gym. So you also have to kind of take a look at yourself and your situation and, figure that out on your own, a little trial and error.
Yeah. I used to feel guilty because I technically have the time and can train every day.
And you don't.
And I don't. And the reality is that every time I've tried to train 6 days a week or even 7, I don't enjoy it, right? Like after a while, I can do it for like a week or 2, and then I start to not look forward to the training. And then it comes down to, well, I don't like there's no really ton of extra benefit. And if now it's starting to stress me out and I don't look forward to the sessions as much,
then it's a detriment at that point.
And not saying that some people don't look forward to doing that 7 days a week.
Yeah, some people like it.
But it's okay to just want to do less and find that minimum effective dose.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I have body composition goals I like to maintain, and if I didn't strength train and that went down to 0 and only walked, then I would also be unhappy, right? So for me, my minimum is typically 2, and even when I do 2 training sessions a week, then I want a little more. Mm-hmm. So again, now if I had to fall back to 2, which I have for times, it's fine. I'm comfortable with it, but I really enjoy like 3 days a week.
3, yeah. 3's enough.
In 4 too, but then like I said, with other stuff, it kind of started to get in the way, and that's more of like I could easily do 4 at different times, but I'm very structured and like
would prefer to just do 3 to not have to worry about it.
I'd rather have that extra morning time be some work stuff I have to do versus the training session.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So
turn the dial. You don't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are, and life will never be perfect. There's never a perfect situation. So if you ever found yourself saying like, oh, I'll just do this when, I don't know, when things are better or easier, they're probably not going to get much better or easier. It's just figuring out where you have time and starting really, really small and then turning that dial up or down.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's okay. I mean, and you're not a failure because you have to scale back on something. I think that's another thing people run into. They're like, oh, well, I can't work out as much as I want to. I'm not going to get the results I want.
Yeah.
But we know that even with 2 days a week, you can get plenty of results working out.
Mm-hmm.
Like scientifically, like
especially if
2 days works.
Baseline before was nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So doing anything is always going to improve your conditioning and your strength. And then for most people who just want to look better, feel better, move better, it's by far and away going to be enough. And if you have highly stressful life and other things, you need some recovery time, and some too much training can be a problem, right?
Yeah.
So,
and we've seen that too. Our people are just doing too much. They're overfilling their bucket a little bit, and they need to scale back to 3 days a week and just walks, when maybe they were doing 5 or 6 days of some intense stuff. So that's also another sign that maybe you need to scale back, if you are overstressed, not recovering, things like that.
Yep. So start small, create these little smaller dial spots,
and
ditch the all or nothing.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Just your 3-week reminder.
Yep. All right, everyone. We appreciate you for listening. We'll be back next week with the guest, Amanda, who we had on before.
A repeat.
Yep.
I'm pumped.
Digging into some deep stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a good
one. Looking forward to it. All right.
We'll see you.
Bye.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.